Well, hi there, folks. This is Joe McDaniel coming to you again from colorful Colorado. This time I'm over at the stable that I keep my horses at, which is called Paradise Found Boarding. And this is my good old buddy Nickel here. He's been my pal for, well, let's see. He's been my pal for at least 8 years, I guess now. 6-8 years, something like that. So we've been riding together a long time. We worked on some cattle ranches together, and he's taught me a lot of things. So I just wanted to cover a few basic topics, the two cornerstone topics today of horsemanship. Because I talk a lot, especially when I'm riding with these young horses, I'm talking a lot about disengaging and lateral flexion. So I figured I'd explain what that means. You can probably find hours of that material on YouTube, but I'll explain my version of it, just because it's, because why not? You're coming to me anyway. Okay. So, lateral flexion, it's the first rule. A lot of even dressage trainers would say the rule number one is give to the bit. Well, I think even before that, you can be soft in the nose before you even need to give to the bit. And Nick's going to go ahead and walk through. So I'm just going to slap the air with my rope where his butt shouldn't be and get him to come back around. Okay, so what is lateral flexion? How can you be soft in the nose? Just like that. Let me get a better angle for you. Oop. Okay. Ooh. There you go. So, I pick up is the key word. So I'm picking the lead rope up above his withers, pulling the slack out of the rein until he brings his nose to my hand and puts the slack back into the rein. And that's a very important part. So watch. I pick up, take the slack out, and then he's asleep right now. Good boy. So I take the slack out, and he puts the slack back into the rein. That's lateral flexion in a nutshell. You'll see something important. Here, this would be improper lateral flexion because you see his ears were on a crooked level. Here is when his spine is straight, when his ears are on a horizontal plane. So this would be proper lateral flexion. You see his ears are on the same horizontal plane, and he's actually putting that curve into his spine on a single plane as opposed to curving his whole spine around and improperly flexing his body. Good boy. This guy's always been curious. So I'll show you on the right side here how you want lateral flexion. You take the slack out of the rein. And curious guy, take the slack out of the rein, pick the rein up above the withers. He gives, puts the slack back in the rein, and you can release. It's good to only reward when the ears, when you ask for him to flex around, it's good only to reward him and release that flexion when the ears are on the same plane. There, it's crooked, so I wouldn't release. There, he straightened himself out, so I can release. And you see how I have this lead rope set up as a figure 8? That way, when I want to release, I can just let those coils fall, and I've organized it so that the end of the rope is the deepest in my hand. So that's just a little bit of a rope handling savvy thing. So, lateral flexion. Why is it important? Because it's the first way that we can demand softness and relaxation. It's also the beginning of teaching our horse to stop. We're teaching him to stop even before he goes. By being able to bend his nose around, we can then start to control his feet. If you don't have lateral flexion, you're not going to get disengaging, which is the second cornerstone, keystone of this whole foundation horsemanship thing. So, you have to have good soft lateral flexion before you can get a disengage. And let me see if I can back Nick up here. To a point where I can, maybe you can see his feet. So I'm going to get him to give to the left here. And then I'm going to put the slack of the rope in my right hand and push on his hip. And he kind of wanted to straighten himself out there. But, okay, so I'm going to push on his hip, look over. If he doesn't go, I'm going to touch his hip. And you see, as he steps around, that last time was incorrect. But you'll see as he steps around, his inside hind foot is stepping in front of his outside hind foot. Let me see if I can get him a little further away, but not in the shadows, and try that again. So if I disengage him this way, his inside hind foot is stepping in front of his outside hind foot. And virtually his front shoulders are not moving at all. And with these older, more finished horses, I would prefer, even if their front feet just move in a small circle, that front inside foot just take a small engaging step forward. So that's disengaging. You can also call that a lateral engaging step, because what disengaging is the horse is stepping up underneath basically where your back cinch or even your front cinch, right up in there where that cinch would be, and creating engagement through the loin. But since he's engaging to the outside, his inside hind is stepping to the outside, we call it disengaging, because that it's taking the motor away from the mouth. He's driving away, if that makes any sense. I'll try and figure out a better way to describe that and show you and to demonstrate it. But I hope I caught that on video. If I didn't catch this second part, you see, Nick sometimes can get a little bit pushy, so I can get firmer than I have been. Okay, I'm gonna pick up. Okay, so here's an important point about 1 and 2. Number 1, lateral flexion. Number 2, disengage. He was flexing around there wrong, but he was soft and standing. So I'm going to ask again, look for proper flexion. Good. If you can't bend his nose to the inside without him moving his feet, then you have no business disengaging him. No business moving his feet. Once you can bend his nose to the inside without him moving his feet, then you can put pressure where your leg would be, right on the back cinch, and drive the hips. And see, he stepped together twice there. There. He stepped underneath and created engagement. Engaging is just when the hind foot steps underneath the horse's belly, their midline. So that's why when you ask the horse to slow, you're asking him to engage his hind feet by stepping further up under and slowing down. And then you put your legs on and ask him to speed up, and so he's engaged, boom, and then he drives from the hind, and that's collection. Nerd. So, let me show you real quick some things that you can do once you get to the snaffle bit with a horse that can help your lateral flexion and thus help your disengaging. Good boy, Nick. All right, so when I adjust my snaffle bits, first off, I kind of like to have as much release as possible. Step back, Nick. I want to have as much release as possible while still not interfering with their teeth or their tongue at all. So, I just adjust the snaffle bits usually so that it's touching the commissures of their mouth. If I find that they're dropping their head too much with the bit set up that way, I'll put a hole or two higher, just raise it up in the mouth and create one wrinkle or so. And that will create some lift through the shoulder as well. And vice versa, if I find a horse is throwing his head too much in the air, I won't normally drop the bit down as a first, like that would be just a little trick to have in the pocket, but just know, however high you set the snaffle bit is how much lift or drop you can put in your horse. If a horse was sticking his head in the air and bracing, I'd work on lateral flexion, because once you can get him to give to the left and the right, then you can get him to give vertically. All right, so one exercise with the snaffle bit. You can do this with the halter too, but it works just a little better with the snaffle bit because they have just a little more incentive to want to try for you. All right, I guess I'll hold on to my stick. So, one exercise is first, just like you're asking with the halter, take the slack out of the rein, and then right where the breast collar would go, and right above that along the neck, feel all those muscles. Oh yeah, feel all those muscles in there, and start working on them. Start massaging him. You see how he's already getting so much more elastic, saying, oh shit, that feels pretty good. He's already reaching way down there. And that's the kind of reaction you get once you've been doing this kind of exercise a while. Good boy. So there, relax the neck. Good. And he's up. There he was leaning on my hand a little, trying to take it away. Good, there we go. And he's a little bit more of a finished horse, so this is kind of this would be a very, very basic warm-up exercise for him. Get off my foot. There you go. And you see how, good boy. You see how that nice elastic stretching down starts to happen. Good boy. So, you do that on both sides with your horse. Get them really nice and soft. Try and work all those muscle knots through, because that causes the right muscles to relax and the correct muscles to engage. As opposed to having the wrong muscles relaxing and the right muscles engaging. You know, you ever see those horses whose their neck looks like a smiley face? That's because usually that's because, you know, they're always just sticking their head up in the air saying no, and somebody's tried a gimmick or a fix like putting a lot of leverage in their mouth, or putting them on draw reins, something like that. So you do your flexions both sides, massaging the neck. Then You teach them, or you can even teach this first, depending on how bracy the horse is. You put pressure upwards on both sides of the bit. Oh, and as they put their nose down, you release the pressure and reward. If they move their head up, you just keep the pressure the same. Don't try and increase it, because then they'll panic. They'll think, oh my God, I'm in a Chinese finger trap. Just keep the pressure the same, and when they move their head the slightest bit down. So here he's stalling out on me, so I'm just going to close my fingers a little more, and there. He reacted, dropped his nose, and released. Here, I'm going to put the pressure again from both sides. I have the outside rein over the top of his poll, and I pull down with my right hand and up with my left hand. And that's how you teach that horse to drop into the snaffle and reach for your fingers. Good boy. Now, I can ask him to give to the inside, and I can start to take up this outside rein once I've gotten him soft both directions. And then I can begin massaging these muscles again and teaching him not only, does he have to give laterally, but there he has to give vertically nicely and really create that nice shape in his neck. That shape that everybody wants. That shape that makes him look like a statue. Good boy. And if he really reaches down like that, that's fine. He can't pull my hands down, but if I know he's going to reach down, I might release beforehand, just so that he can be elastic. There, right there, his mouth is alive. I might, nope, he can't lean against my hand, but there, I might massage. Good boy, good boy. And so you see how those 3 little exercises are kind of like a productivity hack for the snaffle bit. They teach him how to respond correctly the first time in a controlled, sterile environment, as opposed to just getting on and hoping it works. These 3 little exercises are a good way of breaking the snaffle bit for the horses, breaking it down to a science before we can raise it up to an art form. So, old Nick's gonna go take a walk there. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll catch you next time.